first beat of the drum shattered the still night air. Its rhythm was urgent, warning, almost pleading. In the village square, grown men and women froze, their eyes wide. But they did nothing. Only a small child, hair tousled and eyes burning with curiosity, stepped forward. The drumbeat spoke of raiders approaching, of danger no one else wanted to believe. The child listened, and in that moment, the village's fate rested on the courage of one small voice. The talking drum's first beat echoed through the valley, a rhythm older than memory itself. It was sharp, urgent, a language carved from centuries of warnings and celebration, sorrow and triumph. That night, it carried a note of fear. Raiders were coming. The villagers, sprawled across their homes in fires, heard it but turned away. Some whispered, dismissing it as superstition. Others laughed quietly, afraid of the panic it might unleash. But in the midst of them all, a child stood still. A child who saw what the drum meant. A child who understood that danger would not wait for consent. Her name was Amara. She was not more than 8, small enough to fit in the crook of an adult's arm, yet her eyes burned with a fierce clarity that made even the oldest villagers look away. She felt the rhythm in her chest, as though the drum's heartbeat was hers too, quickening with each strike. Her father had once told her, "The drum speaks only to those willing to hear." That night, the words returned, crisp and urgent. Amara knew she could not wait for the grown-ups to act. They would not. Their silence was more dangerous than the raiders themselves. The village was a maze of narrow lanes and clay homes, the smoke of hearth fires curling into the sky, mingling with the cool mist of the valley. Amara ran barefoot, feeling the rough earth bite her soles, smelling the wet stone and firewood. Every sound was amplified, the low whisper of wind through the palms, the distant clatter of an animal startled by the drum, and above all, the pulse of danger, relentless and insistent. Amara had not always been so brave. She remembered her mother's gentle hands brushing dust from her hair, the scent of warm bread filling their small home, the lullabies hummed softly at night. Her father, a man whose back bore the years of toil and whose eyes had seen famine and floods, had taught her how to observe, how to notice the small details, the things others overlooked. Her brother had been lost 2 seasons ago, taken by a flood that no one had predicted. The village had grieved collectively, yet the memory had carved a hollow in her chest. She learned then that attention, care, and the willingness to act, no matter how small, could mean life or death. Her grief was tempered by a quiet resolve, a sense that even the smallest actions had weight. Amara's hands were calloused from climbing trees to fetch fruit, from helping her father carry water over stones slick with rain. Her knees bore scrapes from chasing chickens and exploring the hills beyond the village. She carried the smell of earth and firewood in her hair, the taste of river water on her tongue, the whisper of the wind always in her ears. Every sense sharpened by loss, honed by attentiveness. Every detail mattered because the world she had learned could disappear in a heartbeat. And so, when the drum spoke, she listened. When the villagers turned away, she stepped forward. The child who had watched shadows stretch over her home, who had learned that silence could both protect and betray, became the only witness to a threat no one else dared acknowledge. The raiders were not yet visible, but their approach was tangible. The drumbeat warned of riders cloaked in night, spears glinting like fire under moonlight, horses pounding the earth in rhythm with predatory hunger. Villagers locked doors, peered through windows, and whispered prayers. No one dared confront the danger openly, and no one acknowledged the warning aloud. Their fear had caged them in complacency. Amara ran to the village elder, a man whose age had bent him like the ancient trees surrounding their homes. "The drum is warning us," she said. Her voice was small, yet the truth in it was undeniable. He shook his head. "Child, drums are stories, not threats. Go home." "But the drum," she insisted, heart pounding in time with the warning rhythm. "Go. "You will only scare yourself," he said, turning back to his hearth. And still, she did not leave. She knew that waiting would cost lives. The elder's refusal, the village's silence, only deepened her resolve. The moral weight pressed upon her small shoulders. Wisdom does not always come from those with age or authority. Sometimes it comes from those who are willing to see and listen when others will not. Amara ran through the village, knocking on doors, calling names in a soft, urgent voice. She spoke to the blacksmith, to the baker, to the women mending clothes by firelight. Each ignored her. The drumbeat grew louder in her chest, mingling with the distant sound of hooves, a rhythm of impending doom. In the shadows, a subtle figure watched her, an old hunter who had long been forgotten by the village, a man whose steps were silent, whose eyes missed nothing. He recognized her courage immediately, the same clarity that once guided him through years of tracking and survival. Amara climbed a hill at the edge of the village, the wind tugging at her hair, carrying the scent of rain and smoke. She raised her arms toward the sky, hoping someone, anyone, might finally see. The drum's voice and hers were one, and still, the village remained frozen in fear, silence thicker than the mist. The hunter emerged from the shadows, moving quickly, signaling the villagers to follow. He had gathered weapons, tools, and the few who had listened. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the villagers began to awaken from their fear. Amara ran toward the approaching threat, her small hands steady. The drumbeat guided her, the hunter's presence gave her hope, and the hesitant villagers fell into formation behind them. What had begun as a child's solitary warning became a collective force, fueled not by authority, but by listening, by trust, by courage. When the raiders arrived, they found not a helpless village, but a united one. The child who had spoken when no one else would, whose voice had been dismissed, now led a community ready to defend itself. And in that moment, the power of one small voice became undeniable. As the sun rose, the raiders retreated, confused and defeated by the unexpected strength of the village. Amara, standing atop the hill, her chest heaving, watched as villagers emerged from their homes. They looked at her with awe, respect, and gratitude. The elder approached, his voice quiet but firm. "You saved us, child. We did not believe, and yet you acted." Amara smiled softly, a mixture of relief and pride washing over her. She had acted not for glory, not for praise, but because she had listened. The village, once paralyzed by fear, now stood in solidarity. The drumbeat softened, returning to its gentle guiding rhythm, as if acknowledging the bravery of one who dared to hear it. Sometimes the world waits for the brave without knowing it. Sometimes one small voice carries the weight of life and death, of justice and survival. Amara had shown that courage is not reserved for the old, the strong, or the powerful. It is reserved for those who dare to act, even when no one believes. Look around you. Who is listening? Who is silent? And what might happen if we dared to hear the drums that speak to us? Comment below where you're watching from. Share your thoughts on how a small voice has made a difference in your life. Subscribe for more stories that honor the quiet, the unseen, and the truly brave.